and welcome to the Personalities of the Tarot podcast. Maybe I should rename it to Personalities of the Universe, since we're discussing how to deal with the energy of the moment. I'm your host, Elizabeth Seer, and this is Season 2, Episode 5. We're discussing our entry into Libra with Justice and the Two of Swords. We're also going to discuss the Fall Equinox, which officially ends summer and places us into autumn, which has always been my favorite time of year, and not just because my birthday begins the season. As always, I'll include a quick tarot tip and offer our celebrity or famous and infamous birthdays. This one will be a bit longer than normal, but we have a lot to discuss. So sit back, drive, walk, whatever you do while listening to this podcast, and enjoy the next 20 minutes or so. It's Libra time. Now, we talked about the Queen of Swords on last week's episode, which covers the time of September 12th through October 11th, 12th, right in there. It's basically the end of Virgo through the first 2/3 of Libra. So you can go back and listen to episode 4 if you want to know more about that Queen of Swords personality. Right now, we're digging into Justice, which is the symbol in the major arcana covering the entire sign of Libra, which rules September 23rd through October 22nd or so. Did you know Libra is the only symbol in astrology which is not a living thing? Libra is represented by balanced scales. The scales of life, scales of justice, scale in my bathroom, gathering dust. The other 11 astrological signs, they're all represented by something biological or alive, even if mythologically. Scorpio is the scorpion, Sagittarius the archer, Capricorn is the sea goat, Aquarius the water bearer, Pisces the fish, Aries the ram, Taurus the bull, Gemini the twins, Cancer the crab, Leo the lion, and Virgo the virgin. So Libra is represented by scales. And that kind of makes sense because it actually coincides with the tarot symbol of justice, which is karma, balance, responsibility, accountability, impartiality, equality, fairness, understanding consequences, and understanding cause and effect. If you know a Libra, you might have heard about or even witnessed their inability to make a decision. In fact, that's really not the case. Libra, quite simply, have the ability to see all sides of a situation, weighing all factors. A lot of Libra end up working in government or with the law in some way. In fact, I was a 911 operator, police, and fire dispatcher for several years when I was fresh out of high school. Very Gen X kind of thing, getting right out of high school and answering 911 calls. In the end, though, as I began to have my children, it really didn't work out for me. But that sense of serving my community has always really stuck with me. And the funny thing is air signs can be exceptionally good in crisis situations because, as we spoke of before, air signs, Libra, Aquarius, Gemini, they are the signs of intellect and reason and understanding and communication. So they tend to deal with crisis in a different manner than those like water signs or even fire signs. So if a Libra expresses their shadow side, and you know that one I'm talking about, we all have it, talked about it a lot already, but we do often keep it under wraps until we can't. Libra's dark side does include the inability to make a decision at all, just being overwhelmed with all the options. Dishonesty, refusing to take responsibility or acknowledge the truth, and being really generally overly judgmental. And believe it or not, critical self-judgment is often much worse than any judgments Libras pass on others. Honestly, I feel obviously this should be the case always, but especially right now, September 23rd through October 22nd, everyone of all signs should strive to do what you know is right, finding equilibrium with a situation. Try to see things from all angles and respond with truth and diplomacy. And I know that's not always easy to offer truth which isn't offensive, but you should try it out. And remember, the scales of life will always be balanced, no matter what. And I know that we often want to see the karmic return for someone who's hurt us or someone we love, but you need to you need to remember, even if we're not there to bear witness, the scales of life will always be balanced in this universe. During this time of justice in Libra, there's really often a heightened need to weigh all factors, being impartial while making decisions. You may also find that someone is being held accountable now, being forced to understand the consequences of things. And of course, the time of justice often brings out truths, and they need to be acknowledged. Justice and Libra are also positively associated with government and the law. And while we may not agree on the outcome at the time, justice, in the grand scheme of things, will always be served in the end. The card of justice in the time of Libra brings an opportunity to really understand the duality of nature. As above, so below, cause and effect. Lady Justice may also indicate a period where you're experiencing dealings with a legal issue, or someone around you could be laying down the law. At the end of the day, the truth will always catch up to those who avoid responsibility. And we're reminded now to take responsibility and do what we know is right, because the scales of life will always be balanced. Let's talk about the Fall Equinox, which begins the second half of the astrological year. It's occurring exactly at 2:50 a.m. Eastern Time on September 23rd this year, 2023. The word equinox comes from the Latin words equi, which means equal, and nox, which means night. So we know equinoxes bring equal day and equal night, while the summer and winter solstices in June and December are the longest and shortest days of the year, respectively. I was born on the day of the fall equinox, way back when calendars first began. Of the year I was born, Libra began in the early morning hours of September 23rd, and that's also the day of the fall equinox, so I got to be born exactly on the equinox. And I've always wondered how being an equinox baby affects me. My family, I was thinking about it when I was putting this podcast together. My family actually talks about what a good sleeper I am. I mean, since I was a baby, since I was a very young child, and where most small kids will fight going to bed, they just don't want to go to bed. I actually call that toddler FOMO. I can easily and could easily sleep away half the day. Some believe that those born on equinoxes have a natural balance and harmony, especially in Libra, which, as discussed, is represented by the scales. Traditionally, the fall equinox is a time of harvest. Before the harsh winters blanket the land, we need to gather and prepare our food to see us through. The fall equinox brings celebrations and offerings for the bounty grown through the summer. Astrologically, or spiritually speaking, with an equinox we can expect new, or at least different, energy. The fall equinox brings a focus on relationships, which also makes sense being at the beginning of Libra, and Libra is known as the relationship sign, the marriage sign. And it also makes sense that as the nights grow longer than the days, after the equal night on the 23rd, we just crave more intimacy, we crave more peace and celebration with others. I mean, think about all of those amazing celebrations we have in the Northern Hemisphere from now through the solstice in December. So it's time to celebrate the harvest as we begin preparations for winter hibernation with those we love. Enjoy this equinox and everything it brings. This week's tarot tip is all about rote learning versus intuition. And rote learning, that's rote, R-O-T like tango, E. So, rote learning is the memorization of information based on repetition. And the two best examples I can come up with for rote learning, those are like the numbers and the alphabet. Slightly more complicated would be something like multiplication tables and spelling words. And then, of course, as you get to the higher education levels, scientific elements and their chemical numbers have to be memorized by rote. Now, while some tarot readers can immediately go with their intuition, and I'm very jealous, not now, but back in the day when people were just really good at intuiting the cards, I was a little envious because I had to memorize the cards using keywords for each and rote learning, basically. I had to memorize things. And then it wasn't until much later, well, not much later, probably a couple of years, my intuition really kicked in. And I actually started hearing from dead people, but that's a whole other story altogether. So just know that if you're not feeling the cards intuitively, just try picking up a book. You can pick up my book, Ex Libri Tarot from the Library of Tarot. It's available on Amazon. Or pick another book that you just feel drawn to and learn some keywords for each card. Memorization through repetition is a great place to start. The first trump or numbered card of Libra is the Two of Swords. That does cover the time from September 23rd through October 1st or 2nd. Again, always remember to give that day or so on either side of a date in astrology. This period of September 23rd to October 1st or so, it's ruled by a Two of Swords. And the Two of Swords is definitely about finding balance and seeking peace, usually through avoidance of things which are just unpleasant. As someone born in this decan of Libra, I can absolutely attest to this. I avoid unpleasantness with every ounce of my being until I can't. But I actually call the Two of Swords, I call it the Scarlett O'Hara card. Because in the movie, when things really got tough for Scarlett, she says, I'll not think about that now. I'll think about it tomorrow. She handles things very well when she has to. But if she can avoid the unpleasantness of a thing, she will do that at all costs. So the energy of this time period can indicate a stalemate in affairs, refusing to decide or act, a very Libra thing to do, reaching an impasse. You might even feel like you want to avoid a person or situation or even deny your true feelings about something. So if you are or know someone born September 23rd through October 1st, you'll have to watch them for avoiding decisions, deeming them unimportant, simply because they're trying to avoid painful consequences. When stuck between a rock and a hard place, they really need to choose the path of least pain, or that may not even be an option. So just make a choice and deal with it. All things being equal, a Libra should definitely get out of their own head, or at least these first decan Libras especially should get out of their own head and go with their gut. Because those things that we call feelings, they really do have more substance than we air signs give them credit for. Here is a perfect example of living with this Two of Swords energy. Around 18 or so years ago, I had just this gorgeous 75-gallon freshwater aquarium in my living room. And I would wake up every morning and feed my fish before work. One morning, I stood in front of the tank for a feeding, and just thinking about it, I'm laughing. The carpet beneath my feet, it felt like it could be a little dampish, and the tank certainly looked like it was down about an inch or so and could probably use a little bit of water. But, I went to work, blew it off, went about my business throughout the day. The next morning, I went to feed the fish, and the carpet was just soaking wet. And the tank was about a quarter of the way down. It had lost at least 25% of its water. So, of course, I knew then and there I had a leak and I had to attend to it. And if I'd taken care of it the day before, it still would have been annoying, but my carpet wouldn't have been soaked through. I was in that Scarlet mindset of, I'll not think about that now, I'll think about it tomorrow. And then when tomorrow came, I was absolutely forced to deal with the issue. So during this period, through the 1st of October, everyone of all signs, should try a new approach. If feelings are causing difficulty with decision making, don't hide from deciding, pretending it'll all just go away. Take the bull by the horns and decide with the best intentions and awareness of consequences. You're being asked to make a decision after a period of measured thinking. And while the Two of Swords is conflict through stalemate, it's also peace through truce. We all deal with things in our own way and in our own time, but instead of putting it off for a later day, try to deal with your situations responsibly, using wisdom and fairness now. It's famous birthday time. Here's a random list of famous or infamous early Libra characters and celebrities born September 23rd through October 1st. As always, the list does not mean I agree or disagree with a person's words or life choices. It's really simply to educate on the early Libra personality, giving you the opportunity to compare public personas with their tarot and astrological correlations for bad or good. So we're going to start off with me, Elizabeth Seer, in case you forgot who you were listening to. Bruce Springsteen, Jim Henson, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Christopher Reeve. This is interesting. Both Catherine Zeta-Jones and her husband, Michael Douglas, they both share the same birthday, September 25th. T.S. Eliot, the late, great Phil Hartman, Mark Hamill, Will Smith, Donald Glover, also known as Childish Gambino, Barbara Walters, Shel Silverstein, Serena Williams, Jenna Ortega, Janine Garofalo, Bridget Bardot, Confucius. And a little note on that, the traditional claim is that he was born on the 27th day of the 8th lunar month, and it's been questioned by historians, but basically September 28th is still widely observed in East Asia as Confucius's birthday. And it's kind of cool because September 28th is also recognized as Teacher's Day in China and Taiwan. So we also have Ian McShane, Les Claypool, Halsey, Miguel de Cervantes, and if you don't know, he was the author of Don Quixote, Jenna Elfman, Trey Anastasio, Tony Hale, and you may love him like I do as Buster on Arrested Development, Kieran Culkin, T-Pain, Truman Capote, Zach Galifianakis, and former U.S. President Jimmy Carter, the peacemaker. And there is no better job for a Libra than to negotiate peace in the world. Before my next episode around the 1st or 2nd of October, we're actually going to have a full moon. It's another supermoon. It's the last supermoon of the year, and that's going to be on September 28th, reaching full peak the morning of the 29th. The September full moon, supermoon, it's also known as the harvest moon. And of course, we know that coincides perfectly with the fall equinox and the entry into the new season. And if you're like me and you get insomnia during full moons, especially supermoons, just have your chamomile, lavender, and valerian root tea ready to go, or something, whatever else makes you relaxed. And also remember that the moon is often tied to our intuition and the divine feminine. So use this opportunity to listen to your gut, tune in. Just watch out for the lunacy, which comes with full moons. There's this, I found this really interesting article from 2007 on the BBC website, and it talks about how the city of Brighton decided to add more police officers to patrol on full moons because their research concluded that there was a rise in violent incidents when the moon is full. Also, as someone who did once work as a 911 operator and police dispatcher, I can absolutely attest to this. When the moon was full, calls for service just really increased significantly. And spiritually, full moons are an incredible time to release those things in your life which have come to fullness and fruition. So tune into your gut and release those things which no longer serve you. And again, Also a good Libra trait, just cutting those things out which no longer serve. If you didn't already know, I'm a 5-star tarot and psychic reader. I've got 5 stars on Google, Fiverr, Groupon, Fresha, and I really don't like Yelp, but I think I even have 5 stars on there as well. You can book a session with me by visiting elizabethseer.com, and that's Seer, S-E-E-R. I also have links on my site for my book, Ex Libri Tarot from the Library of Tarot. It's a tool for those beginning their tarot journey, and it can be purchased as a paperback. Because I have companion pages in there for notes, so it can be purchased as a paperback through Amazon. I'm also an oracle and tarot creator. Last year, I released the Lenormand Seer Oracle, which is available as a casting oracle or in card format. I use both versions very regularly. I'm also, if you've been listening regularly, you know, I'm super excited because I just released my Seers Casting Tarot this week. And I am so pleased with it. It's gorgeous, just thrilled with it. And it works great for standalone tarot readings, casting readings, or really well as a companion to your other tarot cards and oracles. You'll find the info and links on both the Lenormand Seer Oracle and Seers Casting Tarot at my website, elizabethseer.com. As you may know, I'm not so great at keeping up on my socials, but I do post a video version of this podcast on YouTube, usually within about 2 to 3 days of its release here. I also have informative tarot videos and some cool information on my Lenormand Seer Oracle if you're interested. Finally, I do have to give a shout out to my teammates at Chicks with Spiritual Gifts. If you're interested in different intuitive readers or creative and new types of readings, definitely make sure to check out my team at chickswithspiritualgifts.com. Kimmy, Lindsay, Sheila, and we work with Terry's sister Nikki to continue Terry's legacy of reading for others and sharing our spiritual gifts with the world. I really hope you came through Mercury retrograde and Virgo relatively unscathed, or you're at least healing from that period if you didn't. Now we get to the harvest, where we can look back at the first half of the astrological year and really see the work we've done. So I hope your seeds were well planted. You've been listening to Elizabeth Seer, and I'm grateful for this time with you.